It was like a full moon the night before. We all paddled out together, 5 of us. There was lots of dolphins around us, and the first thing that I said to my friend was, oh, shit, it feels sharky. It's sharky here. I saw a couple of dolphins actually away from us, and there was like a mum and a calf surfing on this little wave, and I thought, I'll go over there. I was sitting there for maybe 10 minutes or so, just me and nothing else, you know, just me and the ocean.
I wore my freediving fins just to help me out a bit more, and about a third of the way over it was quite deep water and quite overcast.
It came up from underneath and hit me like a freight train, just from out of nowhere, saw nothing.
I remember getting bumped in the water and thinking, what the hell is that?
And he was instantly chewing on my leg.
Yeah, and I stuck my head underwater to see where the shark was, and I was actually face to face with it, probably about 1 metre away.
There was blood everywhere, and it was like a scene out of like a Jaws movie. It was exactly the same. I managed to stay on the board, and I remember touching something, must have been a snout, and it was over. There was nothing. I just let go.
I didn't want to look, but I felt around with my hand just to make sure that something, you know, was wrong. And then when I felt, I guess, flesh, then I knew that, yeah, I had been bitten. But I guess because I had so much adrenaline going through me, I felt like I'd just fallen off a bike, like that kind of feeling.
I had to look, and this massive piece was as big as my forearm, was like just hanging off.
It wasn't like an attack, it was a bite. It bit me. I realised I wasn't what it thought it was, and then it swam away, and I wasn't worried about it returning or anything like that.
Yeah, it's the most horrific thing ever. It was the most horrifying 5 minutes of my life.
The world, Australia is well known for the many dangerous species inhabiting this continent. Everything can kill you: luring octopus, sharks, jellyfish, crocodiles, spiders, and snakes. I have always admired how people can coexist with these animals. In January, I discovered that in Western Australia there were 7 fatal shark attacks in the space of 3.5 years. Most of them were caused by the great white shark. In response to this, the Western Australian government implemented a radical policy to protect the public, the shark cull. So I decided to go to Perth to find out what is this about. Hi, I'm Carla. I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm from Ecuador. I'm making this documentary about sharks and the shark cull here in Western Australia. So I'm going to interview some people here, and I was thinking if I can interview you.
Okay. Right. We've got some drum lines, and they're installed pretty much from the 25th of January. So they're bait that are on hooks and then anchored to the seafloor, and there were 72 of them in Western Australia. So the WA government is attempting to prevent shark incidents from occurring off the WA coast at popular beaches. That's the reason why they've installed the drum lines.
This policy made me wonder what people in Western Australia think about sharks. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say shark?
Jaws.
Creature from the ocean.
Amazing creatures.
They're a natural animal of the deep.
Dangerous animal.
A big fish.
A predator and food.
Are you scared of sharks?
I'm terrified of sharks.
I'm petrified of sharks.
I'm afraid of sharks, yes.
Not as much as riding a bike or being bitten by a malaria mosquito.
Anybody have to have respect for the sharks, whether you swim in the ocean or not. You got to have some respect for them. Yes.
No, it didn't change my view on sharks, and I didn't become a shark hater.
I think in general it's just made me more aware but not frightened.
So sharks have a culture of instilling fear in us because it's the unknown. So there's not been a lot of research on understanding particularly great whites and why they will actually bite a person. So we just have a fear that is ingrained in us due to sometimes what the media portrayal is of a great white. What you see most of the time is a great white breaching, their teeth coming out, and that's how sharks are portrayed, as massive man-eaters. Unfortunately, it's not a very good portrayal of sharks because the majority of the time a shark will just swim by. We aren't what's in their food diet. You know, that as a matter of fact, there's been evidence to show that they don't like the taste of humans. Australia's culture is built around the beaches. We have surfers and swimmers and kayakers in the waters thousands of times a day, but we don't have thousands of shark incidents taking place at the same time. Having a shark bite you is so rare. You know, you've got more chance of being taken by a hippopotamus than a shark, you know, or having a car accident.
The only time the media is ever interested in documenting something to do with sharks is when there's been a shark attack. They don't go out there and proactively seek stories on people doing research on sharks. They don't go out and seek stories on people who go and help sharks. And the unfortunate thing is that fear sells stories.
Oh, see, that's the thing about the media talks bullshit. They said I was stalked by a crocodile but bitten by a shark.
After hearing all this, it made me want to know more about how the drumlines work and why this policy is so controversial in Western Australia.
When a shark is captured on a drumline, it will thrash about for a while, and then once it gives up fighting, it will keep into a state of tonic immobility, or it keeps the shark vertical, and so therefore no water is getting through the shark's gills. So therefore the shark is drowning. But what it is doing is attracting sharks closer to our shores. Because not only do you have bait on the drum lines, now you've got bigger bait on the drum lines that is unable to get away from another shark whilst it's slowly drowning.
In Perth, I found a community of people who were fighting against the drumline policy. I met Jake and Sammy, ordinary people who invited me to join in their boats.
I'm a fuel system technician, basically working on all sorts of diesel fuel systems.
My husband and I own a flooring business, and I also do photography.
Went out to display and document the cull, get people on board from whatever organisation and make sure that everything that was happening was seen.
And why did you decide to do that?
It's like someone jumping your fence and killing your dog in your backyard. I've been on these waters for near on 30 years, and this is my home. People donated towards my fuel fund. A lot of my money went into it too. It's been a huge expense. There was a lot of early morning starts, getting here at 3 in the morning or sleeping on a boat, getting out there before light, getting out there before fisheries, patrolling the lines and just trying to make sure there was nothing going to be killed.
When we first started going out on the water, predominantly we were observing what fisheries were doing and taking photos of what they were doing.
So they're cutting the shark open so it sinks straight away.
So the treatment of the animals really led to us saying, you know, enough's enough. This is No more just sitting here taking photographs of what they're doing. We actually want to go out and we actually want to help rescue some of these animals now. So everything that was under 3 metres, not a great white, tiger or bull shark, needed to get off that line, off those lines as quickly as possible. And if fisheries weren't going to do it, we were going to help them. Fisheries officers were keeping an eye on the No WA Shark Cull group page on Facebook. They knew that we had people prepared to go out on the water to photograph them, so I think they expected that they were going to have someone out there or a boat out there observing them. I don't think they expected us to do it every single day of the entire program.
They were very evasive in what they're doing, and I always thought to myself, what are they trying to hide if they're doing a public service? So that made me chase them even harder.
Obviously we were picking up on things that fisheries were doing wrong or things that they could be doing better, and we were obviously putting those things out on those social media websites, and fisheries, because they watch that heavily, obviously becoming a little bit irate with us.
A lot of the sharks that they released, I witnessed quite a few. Once they were slid off the back of the ramp of the boat, go belly up and sink to the bottom. They didn't irrigate the gills of the sharks, they didn't try and bring them back to a state fit for release. They just dumped them off the back of the boat and signed them off as an alive release. Just because you take a hook out of something's mouth doesn't mean it's alive.
They understood that they were getting a bad reputation from not handling the fish in the best possible practices, and this is fisheries, you know. WA Fisheries Department are out there. Their whole motto and slogan is fish for the future. They're supposed to teach the general public, if you land a fish that you're not keeping, how to put it back into the water for its best chance of survival. And here they weren't doing that at all.
From my point of view, the drum lines are indiscriminate. They're not taking a shark that has bitten someone. The drumline policy had over 160 tiger sharks that were taken. In the past 80 years, there hasn't been a shark attack from a tiger shark in the Perth metropolitan waters.
I don't think that going to slaying 500 sharks is going to stop shark attacks. I think if there's one rogue shark and they know that it's responsible for eating someone, maybe they could catch it and relocate it or something.
Obviously, I'm really strongly against the shark cull in WA. It just goes against everything to do with keeping a healthy ocean. You know, the apex predator is so important, and the fact that, you know, great whites are an endangered species. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we were actually creating programs to try and get their numbers up, and now they're taking them away or trying to.
I think it was a political move, but I think they had to do it because people were very afraid, and a lot of our tourism is actually based on beach activities, so they had to appear as if they were doing something.
The ocean's their territory, and they don't mess with our territory. I don't think we should mess with this.
I think yes to investing in ideas to deal with the issue, but taking such a violent approach just doesn't seem logical because you're just killing them.
I know intellectually that it is not effective, but to be honest, I would like there to be no sharks in the ocean.
We can't live without them in our oceans, you know, when we go to school we get taught that, you know, trees give us our oxygen. Well, the ocean actually provides us with 80% of our oxygen. So if we had, for example, no tips and no rubbish bins here, and our rubbish had to pile up around us, you have toxic gases and fumes, and suddenly you wouldn't be able to live where you live. Same goes for the ocean. Sharks come along and they eat all the slow and dead fish and crustaceans and stuff out the ocean, and whales, and then they actively hunt as well. So they clean our ocean, and if our ocean's not clean, then our air's not clean and we don't live. So they're quite important to humans, but we don't really see it because it's out of sight, out of mind. It's under the water. It's not something we have to live with every day.
I think what people don't think about, people don't envision what the future's going to be. And if we take all the sharks out of the ocean and the imbalance of the ocean, starts to tip, we're going to be swimming in an ocean full of jellyfish, and people aren't going to think about, well, would you rather swim in a beautiful, healthy ocean with some sharks in there? Or, there's a possibility that you could be swimming in an ocean full of jellyfish that are, going to sting you. And then what are we going to do?
The things that Sea Shepherd in particular have been highlighting is a program that's called Shark Spotters that takes place in Cape Town in South Africa. And they use a system of flags and alarms to actually get people out of the water whilst they see a shark. And then after 20 minutes has gone by, they allow the people to go back into the water. That program has proven very successful and has been in place for the past 10 years. Another alternative that we have here in Western Australia is called the Eco Shark Barrier. And this was a barrier that was installed in a local beach called Coogee Beach for 4 months. They did a trial. It had no bycatch, which is great, and whilst also protecting the public, because it had a full enclosure.
When those beaches are patrolled, they're safe. Putting drum lines in brings sharks in and makes them unsafe. The Westpac helicopter did patrols on sharks this year. It flew 60 less hours and saw more sharks than last year while the drum lines were in. Yeah, they've ignored the fact that Hawaii culled 4,000 odd sharks over 20 years and shark attack rates didn't decline. They've ignored 102 international shark scientists writing to them an open letter and saying this isn't going to work, it's wrong. They're basically ignoring the public.
Even the government did their own survey and 80% of people on average are against the drum lines.
I'm against the cull.
In general, I agree with it. However, I would like to see the numbers that kind of warrants the culling method, because it needs to be a statistical or a scientific approach towards culling. And I'm not sure if that's always the case.
Should be gone. The drumline should be gone.
I'm really opposed to them, yeah.
Against drumlines, 100%.
I'm not really a fan of the idea.
It's a ridiculous policy. Stupid idea.
I did my best to get the government's point of view, but after many phone calls, I couldn't get an interview with anyone. I went to the government's website to find out the official results, and this is the reported catch during the 3 months that the drumlines were installed. Most of the sharks were tiger sharks, and no great whites were caught.
They say they only killed 60, but I'd put it up around 120 by what I saw.
We don't understand why exactly. We haven't got any answers from the WA Premier at all in regards to our questions about why Shark Spotters hasn't been looked at as an alternative in comparison to drumlines. They have provided some input into some of the other alternatives and why they didn't actually go ahead with those, and we're okay with that. But we really are requesting that the Shark Spotters program is given a little bit more of an interest from the WA government, and also the Eco Shark Barrier.
I think it's horrible, it's really stupid, it's really unintelligent to do what they're doing. I guess if you can look at a positive of what's happened is that you're bringing awareness of how important the sharks are and conservation in our oceans. We're bringing it to the attention of lots of people around Australia, people that maybe wouldn't necessarily think about it too much otherwise.
What I find can be frustrating a lot of the times is you've got conservationists taking a very emotional point of view, which I can completely understand, but there's no room for emotion in this debate. It really needs to be a debate fought on facts in order for us to win this. If you've got thousands of scientists speaking out against this drumline policy, we need to listen to those scientists. They know more about this issue than pretty much what the general public does. So we need to listen to them and then fight their battles as well for their voices to be heard, and that's what we can do, and we can do it very well.
When I first started, I thought that sharks were scary and dangerous animals. But through this process, I understood how important they are. And I hope also people can change their perception of sharks and realize that it is just another animal, and it is very important for our lives.